Shalom. Shalom. Peace and blessings. I'm doing this live stream because I got a question. I received a question. I'm sorry. All right. So I received a question pertaining to the 3 days, 3 nights. 3 days, 2 nights. Now I know that the 3 days, 2 nights video was pretty long. It's pretty long. So I know sometimes um when looking at a video with so much information in it, we lose sight of certain specifics. Sometimes there's an emphasis in our minds where one thing looks more important than all the other things. And likewise. So in the 3 days, 3 nights video, what we covered was the manner in which Messiah speaks to the people in parables, who he was talking to when he mentioned um, this particular parable, and third, the meaning of the part of the earth concept, whether it's a Hebrew idiom or whether it's not, whether it's something that he spoke which promoted like an misunderstood thing. Everything that Messiah spoke when it came to the Pharisees and the multitude was in parables, because it was prophesied in the book of Isaiah that people will not understand him when he spoke, that they would see and not perceive, that they would hear and not discern, and things like that. But the question, I got a question, and I received a question, and it said that they understood everything, but they just didn't know when these 3 days, 3 nights started. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna emphasize Shalom, follower of Yahuwah, Shalom. What we're gonna do is we're gonna emphasize on specifically the question pertaining to how to start this 3 day, 3 night count, and I'm gonna allow Messiah to tell us when it starts. But before we get started, I want to let everybody know that we started this new Patreon thing, which would allow us to not only let people support the ministry if they desire to, but also get access to like more personal interaction, counsel, advice. Sometimes people got personal questions and things like that. This would be like an avenue of when people can actually get more personal access to the ministry. So that will be in the description below. Check that out whenever you get a chance. Now, 3 days, 3 nights, how to start these days. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go through all the instances in which Messiah speaks about this account, the 3 days, the rising on the third day, and things of that sort. If you need more detail, please go to the 3 days, 3 nights video that we have up. It goes and covers every other concept, every other idea that goes together with this doctrine. So let's start with we're gonna start at Matthew. We're gonna start with Mark. I'm sorry. We're gonna go back and forth throughout the gospel accounts. All right. So let's start with Mark. Mark chapter 16. Let's start with Mark chapter 16. So look at what it says. Mark chapter 16, looking at verse 9. And it says, and Yahushua when was risen early in the morning, the first of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, out of whom it was he had casted 7 devils. So it's very important that we understand it's the first of the week. I still have people questioning whether it's the first of the week or whether it's the first of the feast or some other question like that. But this is definitely the first of the week. Matthew 28 gives us that clarity at the end of Matthew 27 into 28. So check this out. So when we get to Matthew 27, we're going to see clearly that the feast of unleavened bread, the first day of unleavened bread, was when Messiah was on trial. And you can see that in verse 15. Now at the feast, the governor was wont to release unto the people a prisoner whom they wanted. And they had a notable prisoner called Barabbas. And it says, therefore, when they were gathered together, Pilate said unto them, whom do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Yahushua, which is called Messiah? So this is during the feast. And which feast was it? Let's go back a few chapters so you can clearly see what feast it was. Okay. Now, the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Yahushua saying to him, where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover? First day of the feast of unleavened bread. First day of the feast of unleavened bread. Passover, there is no festival during the 14th of the first month. There's only a festival on the 15th of the first month, which is the feast. But let's continue to look at this. First day he rose. Back to Matthew 27. Please follow me. Please follow me. Please follow me. So Matthew 27. So we see Messiah died here, verse 46, the 9th hour of this feast, right? 15th of Abib, 15th of the first month. And so look at what it says. Let's get to the point where he buried him. So they buried him, right? They buried him in the tomb. It says, and there was Mary Magdalene and the other Mary sitting against the tomb. It says, now the next day, right? So the first day was the feast where they let the people choose between Barabbas and Yahushua. This was the feast. It says, we looked at Matthew 26. It says the first day of unleavened bread. We looked at, in the 3 days, 3 nights video, we break that down as well to show where exactly, whether or not Messiah ate the Pesach or not. We also have that in the when does the day start video, the finally when does the day start video. So check that out, please. So after this time, this feast of unleavened bread, it says that the Shabbat drew near. The Shabbat drew near. Now this was the next day that followed the day of preparation. The chief priests and the Pharisees came together unto Pilate. Now, what day? The day of preparation. What day of the week is the day of preparation? It's the 6th day. We get this from Exodus 16. Exodus 16, Israel was commanded to gather, right here, verse 22, and it came to pass that on the 6th day, they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for one man, as the rulers in the congregation told Moses. And he said to them, this is that which Yahuwah shall said, tomorrow is the rest of the set apart Shabbat unto Yahuwah. Bake that which you will bake today, and boil that which you will boil, which remains over to lay up for you until the morning. And it says, and they laid it up until the morning, and it grew worms. Moses said, eat that today, for today is the Shabbat unto Yahuwah. Today you shall not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the 7th day, which is Shabbat, in it there shall be none. So the 6th day is this preparation day. They need to prepare or gather twice as much and lay some up for the Shabbat. This is the preparation day. Okay? There is no preparation day for the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And we're going to see why. Exodus chapter 12, it tells us that the Feast of Unleavened Bread has no preparation because you are allowed to cook on the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Let's go. Let me show you that real quick. Verse 16 of Exodus 12, and in the first day there shall be a set apart gathering, and in the 7th day there shall be a set apart gathering. No manner of work shall be done in them, except that which every man must eat, that only may be done for you. So if you are allowed to cook on the Feast of Unleavened Bread, there is no such thing as a preparation day for the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Okay? I want to make sure we know that. So when it says this, that it was the feast, this was the first day of unleavened bread, there is no preparation for the Feast of Unleavened Bread, but there is a preparation for the 7-day Shabbat. So this day here, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which was the preparation, this is when Messiah died. Messiah died on the day of preparation, and as we can see, he was laid in a tomb. He was laid in a tomb, and then it says the next day that followed the day of preparation. What's the day that followed preparation? It's the Shabbat. The day that followed the day of preparation was the Shabbat. Okay. And then the Pharisees and the chief priests came to Pilate to ask them to seal the tomb. And it says, therefore, that the tomb may be made sure until the third day, lest his disciples come by night, steal him away, say unto the people, he is risen from the dead, so the last error shall be worse than the first. So this says, so they went and made the tomb sure, sealing the stone and setting a watch, verse 66. Remember, there is no chapters. So this is a continuation. You have the first day of unleavened bread, which was the preparation day for the Shabbat. We have the Shabbat coming in the next day, and then we have them sealing this tomb until the next day, which is the end of Shabbat. So you have the preparation day, the Shabbat, and the first day of the week. You cannot ignore the fact that these are the three elements here. These are the three time frames here. You have the time of the feast when Messiah was killed. You have the Shabbat drawing near, and they call that day that Messiah died the day of preparation. The next day after the day of preparation, Messiah was already in the tomb, and the Pharisees went to Pilate to ask to put a seal on the tomb. And this is when the Shabbat ended, as it began to dawn during the daytime of the first day of the week. So it's very clear you can't get around this non-72 hour situation. It's not 72 hours. It's not. So now we bring in the question, where does this time frame come? If he's raising on the third day, not after the third day, on the third day, where do you start these 3-day count? Let's see when Messiah said to start this count. Okay. So let's start with Luke. Start with Luke. Let's go to Luke chapter 24. Let's start here. Let's start at verse 5. Listen to how he describes this. I need you guys to pay attention to this. This is the emphasis now. We're going to emphasize on when Messiah said this 3-day count will start. Verse 5 to 7, listen to what it says. It says, and as they were afraid and bowed down their faces to the earth, they said to him, why do you seek the living among the dead? And it says, he is not here, but he is risen. This is at Messiah's tomb. This is at Messiah's tomb when they went into the tomb and found it empty. It says, do you remember how he spoke to you while he was in Galilee? And he said, listen to the sequence. The Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men, be crucified, and the third day rise again. See, many people don't include the fact that he was delivered to be a part of this 3-day sequence. The 3-day sequence starts here. The Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men, be crucified, and the third day rise again. All of this encompasses this 3-day time frame. But I'm going to allow scripture to continue to confirm this over and over again. Let's go to let's go down to verse 20. Now listen to this. Again, look at what it says. He said unto them, what things? Now this is the brothers that was going to Ephesus. And he said, do you not know what happened in these days? And Messiah said, what things happened? And they said to him, concerning Yahushua Messiah, which was a prophet, mighty indeed, and word before Elohim and all the people. And then it says how the chief priests and our rulers delivered him to be condemned to death and crucified him, but we trusted that it had been he which should redeem Israel. And beside all this, today is the third day since these things were done. What things? This is the third day since what things were done. This is the third day since the chief priest delivered him to condemnation and when they killed him. And he rose the third day because he's standing right there talking to them. They didn't even know that. So we see clear. Let me shorten this real quick. The constant emphasis on when to count this 3 days was when he was captured, put on trial, delivered to ungodly men, crucified, killed, and then he rose on the third day of that entire situation. You have to start counting from the day that he was captured and brought into custody of ungodly men. You have to. The 3 days, 3 nights will explain why, but you have to count that because this is what they're saying. They're giving all of this whole picture in that sequence. So this is very clear. He says, these are the things that happen. And this is the third day since all those things happened, since the time he was delivered, the time that he was crucified. And this is the third day since counting all of those things. Let's continue to look at more confirmation because it's very clear. We need to stop counting a 72-hour time frame. We don't have a 72-hour time frame because we don't need one. It's counting from the time that he was captured, from the time that he was delivered. Let's look at verse 46 of Luke 24. There's a lot of emphasis in just one chapter, but we're going to look at more chapters. Look what it says. Look at what it says. It says, and said, he said, so it says, then opened he their understanding that they might understand the scriptures. Let me go up a little bit. Verse 44. He said to them, these are the words which I spake to you while I was yet with you, and all things must be fulfilled, which were written in the law of Moses and in the prophets and in the Psalms concerning me. When you look at the video, 3 days, 3 nights, we go through the prophets and the Psalms, including Jonah and Moses. It says, then he opened their understanding that they might understand the scripture. And he said to them, it is written, and it behooved Messiah to suffer and to rise from the dead the third day. You see, he's incorporating his suffering. He's not just saying he's dead for 3 days. He's incorporating the time that he was delivered into the hands of ungodly men and suffered. That's what he's doing. He's bringing those concepts together, and he's getting it from the scriptures. If you go back to the video, you'll see that I go through the book of Isaiah to show that in Isaiah 53, the suffering servant, you'll see this concept of him suffering, then dying, then resurrecting. Never just dying and resurrecting, never. But let's continue. Let's go to Matthew chapter 20. Matthew chapter 20, looking at verse 18 and 19. It says here, Yahushua going up to Jerusalem took the 12 disciples apart in the way and said to them, behold, we're going up to Jerusalem. The Son of Man shall be betrayed into the hands of into the chief priests and unto the scribes. What's going to happen next? They shall condemn him to death. What's going to happen next? They're going to deliver him to the nations to mock and scourge and then crucify him. And the third day he shall rise again. Messiah is incorporating all of these situations within those 3 days. Within 3 days, he was betrayed. He was condemned by his own people. His people then delivered him to the Romans. The Romans scourged him and crucified him, and he rose the third day after that whole situation. Let's continue to look at this. Let's go to Matthew chapter 17. Letting Messiah tell us when these 3 days, 3 nights is going to start. Matthew 17, verse 22 to 23. Look at what it says. And while they abode in Galilee, Messiah said to them, the Son of Man shall be betrayed into the hands of men, and they shall kill him, and the third day he shall be raised again. And they were exceeding sorry. So again, he's bringing in He's not just saying he's going to be dead for 3 days. Never. You're you're rarely going to see this explanation anywhere in YouTube. So I need you guys to focus. This is the emphasis. Go back and see the whole video in the 3 days, 3 nights, but this is the emphasis. He's going to be betrayed. He's going to be condemned to death. They're going to give him to the nations to be mocked and scourged and killed. Then the third day he will rise again. So let me go to one more, Luke 18, 31 and 33, 31 to 33. I think we read this in the other account, but this is a different wording. It says he took the 12 and said to them, behold, we're going up to Jerusalem, and all things that were written by the prophets concerning the Son of Man shall be accomplished. He said he shall look at this. Look at this. He shall be delivered to the nations. He shall be mocked, spitefully entreated, and spit on. They shall scourge him, put him to death, and the third day he shall rise again. They didn't understand none of those things that he was saying. Neither did they know the things that were spoken. So, of course, when he resurrected, he broke those things down, which we saw when we were reading Luke chapter 24 and Matthew 20 earlier. But I wanted to focus on this whole concept in the prophets, because he keeps reading it from the prophets, but nobody can prove this 3-day, 3-night dead in the tomb from prophecy. Nobody can prove that. But we can prove his suffering, his betrayal, his deliverance, and his death and resurrection all together in the prophets. So let's go to Isaiah. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 53. We're going to read from verse 7 to 10. Now look at what it says, right? He was oppressed. He was afflicted. He opened not his mouth, and he was brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before the shearers is dumb, so he opened not his mouth. This is when he was in not only when he was in trial, but when he was with the chief priests. When he was in that unlawful trial with the chief priests, he did not speak. And then when he said something, it made them upset. But they brought him to Pilate. Look, he was taken from prison and from judgment. So he was taken from prison and from judgment. So he was led to Pilate after he was condemned by his own people and he was betrayed. Then he went to prison with the nations, and he was taken from prison. And he says, who shall declare his generation? Because he was cut off out of the land of the living. So it shows his oppression, it shows his affliction, and it shows that he was quiet. Even Pilate said, why are you not telling me? Why are you not speaking up? Why are you not talking for yourself? If you're a king of the Jews, then speak for yourself. So all this time he was being betrayed. Then the nations was oppressing him, and then he was being afflicted, and then he was taken from the judgment, and he was cut off from the land of the living. He was killed. For the transgression of my people was he stricken. And then it says he made his grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death. So he died on a tree with the two thieves, right? The wicked, and he was put in a rich man's tomb. Joseph's tomb. He was a rich man. He had a nice plot. So listen to what it says now. He made his grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death. It says, because he had done no violence, neither was there any deceit in his mouth. Now watch this. Now remember, he was cut off from the land of the living in verse 8. Verse 10 says, yet it pleased Yah to bruise him, and he hath put him to grief. When you shall make your soul a sin offering, he shall see his seed. So he shall see his children. He shall see the children, the people that he taught, the people that he guided, the people that followed him, his disciples, his people. But he was cut off from the land of the living. How is he going to see his seed? Not only that he's going to see his seed, he's going to prolong his days. He's going to receive everlasting life. And it says, and the pleasure of Yahuwah shall prosper in his hand. He is going to be given charge, after his resurrection. And we could clearly see that. We could clearly see that in Philippians chapter 2. We can clearly see that right here. It says he was being found fashioned as a man. He humbled himself, became obedient unto death, even to the death of the cross. And it says, wherefore Elohim have highly exalted him and gave him authority above every other authority, that at the name or the authority of Yahushua, every knee shall bow, every in heaven, things under the earth, things under the earth. So he's highly exalted. Not only is he exalted, he's going to see his people, and he is going to prolong his days. He's going to have everlasting life. He's going to be on the right hand of the Father. So we clearly see that the 3 days do not start when he's dead. The 3 days start when he is betrayed, when he is delivered, when he is scourged, and then when he is crucified, and then when he rises from the dead. All of these things is what's going to take. So when did he die? Well, we believe he died Thursday. He was taken Thursday night when he was eating Passover. He was taken that night in Gethsemane, Thursday night, then Friday. Thursday night, first day of unleavened bread. Friday, first day of the feast. We read that in Matthew chapter 26. We read it was the feast, and Pilate wanted to see which one he would deliver, which is Messiah or Barabbas. This was on the feast, the first day of unleavened bread. The night when he ate Passover, the 15th, the day of the 15th, the Shabbat drew near, right? Friday night, the Shabbat is there by the tomb. The women leave the tomb that right before the Shabbat comes in. Shabbat day, he's resting. Sunday night, but it says that he rises early Sunday, the third day. Night, day, that's one. Night, day, that's two. Night, day, that's the third day. Thursday night, Friday, Friday night, Saturday, Saturday night, Sunday. I'm only using those names because that's the only way we can see this concept in our minds. So let me use the numbers for some people. Okay, ready? The night of the 15th, right? The night of the fifth day at night, right? The sixth day at night, the seventh day at night, the first day. He rose on the first day. That's 3 days, 3 nights, him rising on the third day, no 72 hours, because then he would raise on the fourth day. I explained that in the 3 days, 3 nights study. So the 3-day count starts from the time of his capture from the Garden of Gethsemane, the time of his suffering, the time of his betrayal when Judas kissed him on the cheek and his own people betrayed him and put him on trial and betrayed and gave him over to the nations to be scourged and killed. This is when these 3 days starts. And I just want to emphasize this one more time, because on his road to Ephesus, the two dudes, they explained it perfectly and clearly. And so let me explain to them what they understood already. So let's look at that. Let me try to find it. So Luke, where are we? Luke 24. Luke 24. Where were we? 20? Yeah. So I want to point out that these guys were, praise Yah. Oh, shalom, shalom, brother Jason. How you doing, man? Good to see you here. And it said here we go. So it says two of them, the road to Emmaus. Everybody knows that story. It says two of the men went that same day to the village, and they called Emmaus, which was from Jerusalem about 60 furlongs. And they talked together all the things that happened they were talking about. Came to pass that while they communed together, they reasoned, and Yahushua himself drew near and went to them, and their eyes was held that they did not know him. Okay? And he said to them, what kind of conversation are these? What kind of situation is this? that you have with one another, that as you walk and are sad. One of them, whose name was Cleopas, said to him, "Are you a foreigner in Jerusalem and have not known the things that had come to pass in these days?" Now, watch this. Messiah said, "What things?" They said to him, "Concerning Yahushua of Nazareth, which was a prophet, mighty indeed, and in word before Elohim and all the people." Now, watch this, verse 20. How the chief priests and our rulers delivered him to be condemned to death and have crucified him. But we trusted that it had been he which should be the redeemed, which had redeemed Israel. And beside all this, today is the third day since these things were done. Since what things? Since the chief priest delivered him and condemned him to death, and him being crucified by the Romans, and him raising from the dead. This is the third day. It wasn't the fourth day. It wasn't 72 hours after. That would have been the fourth day. This is the third day of since that whole situation started at his betrayal. Okay? So even the people that were in disbelief of his resurrection still understood that what they were being told was that these 3 days would start at the time of his suffering, not at the time of his death. So I hope that this is clear. Praise Yah. Praise Yah. Yes, absolutely. Encouraged, brother. Thank you guys for tuning in. You guys have any questions online? Any questions online pertaining to this that I can cover? You can type it in the chat, and I will be happy to address any questions pertaining to this. Again, I'm starting a Patreon. I just started it. Seemed like it's a good idea. Help support the ministry as well as give more access to the people, a little bit more personal interaction, counseling, advice, Q&As, biblical insight, whatever it may be, and fellowship, um, so check that Patreon out in the description. All right. So I hope that this was clear. I hope that this was clear. Um, all right. So the question, the title, it says, "How did 3 days and 3 nights start?" was the conversation about Messiah's death and resurrection. There's a lot of concepts on when those things occurred. So I have a video called 3 days, 3 nights, breaking down this whole entire concept. But there was an emphasis, there was a certain question that I wanted to emphasize on. And this video is to emphasize on that. So if you want the whole conversation, go check out the 3 days, 3 nights video on the 4LC, and you'll see the whole thing. All right. But all right. I hope that you guys are blessed. Please keep those questions coming in. I'll make more videos if I need to, in order to bring a little bit more understanding on whatever topic you guys are looking into and studying. What in the world? So I hope that you guys have a blessed night, and yeah, bless you guys in your homes. Shalom, everyone.